Well, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time that you're watching this video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evan Sokin. It's such a pleasure to have you on board yet for another interesting episode of the Candid Talk. Now, I'm joined by the one and only Professor Herman Manyora. Prof, how are you?
Good.
Welcome.
Good.
It's been a while since we had this conversation.
Yeah. Things have been happening. Yeah.
Where have you been?
Well, tending to a funeral. I lost somebody in the family.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Prof, we had a conversation with you here in matters policy and education, and you actually dismissed the kind of that committee that was actually mandated by the president to look into the CBC and give us a report. And recently, this is actually the committee gave a report, and here we are. CBC is here with us to stay. What's your feeling on the decision by the government to make sure that CBC stays? Because definitely a number of Kenyans were like, let's do away with the CBC. Actually, that is what they expected, but then we've seen from what is taking place, it is here to stay with us. And some people are also saying that at least reinstate back the 844 system, but with its initial intent. Now, how do you feel about the retention of the CBC?
Everybody in this country knows that CBC is untenable, unworkable, unnecessary. They all know. And the leaders we have, at some point, one time or the other, have said as much, including the president himself. We all know there's something wrong with CBC. But it is convenient for the leadership of the day to carry on with CBC. And my interpretation could be two reasons. Number one, this government is out to prove that they have nothing against Uhuru Kenyatta, and they will work with him, and they will support him, and that they will not antagonize him. So this thing was so close to Uhuru Kenyatta, you touch it, you are touching Uhuru Kenyatta. That's the first possibility. The second possibility is they are facing what Uhuru faced. This is an imposition on the people of Kenya by outside forces. So the way Uhuru was manipulated, the current administration is being manipulated to impose CBC on the people of Kenya. CBC has one agenda, according to me, to destroy third world countries, to destroy Kenya, to destroy Africa.
Let me understand. How does a competency-based curriculum destroy?
If you want to destroy a people's future, you destroy their education. Destroy children. Once you destroy children, there is no future for the country. So the agenda is simple. Make sure Africa continues to sleep while the West continues to exploit Africa. Very worrying to the West is the fact that Africa has the most youthful population. The rest of the world is having aging population. Worrying to the West is the fact that the penetration of education in Africa is moving at an alarming speed. That this youthful population of Africa is getting more and more enlightened through education. So unless you check that, the West and their partners, the Chinese, the Japanese, will not exploit Africa. Because all you need is an educated, enlightened population in Africa. And they will tell the Wazungu, stay in your place, we stay in our place, until such a time we can work as brothers and sisters put on this earth by God. Simple. And they fear that. So you destroy the education. So you bring CBC as is a very clear indication that we are headed for very tough times.
Prof, how different is the CBC from the kind of curriculum that was there before 844?
You know, first of all, CBC distracts us. It's a distraction.
How?
It's a distraction because we know what we need to do to improve education in this country. So instead of concentrating on that, we are being distracted by the debate on CBC and CBC itself. Education is about access and quality. Can Kenyan children access education? Is the education we give them of quality? Tied with that will be the level of training of teachers, motivation of teachers by salary and payment and others, classrooms, the infrastructure and everything required. That's what this country needs today. But CBC is brought in as a distraction. Secondly, by the time teachers get to make sense of what CBC is, so much damage will have been caused, even if it was a good thing. The teachers will be so ill prepared to handle a situation like this, like CBC. Everyone who knows something about CBC, including those advocating for CBC, know that the only place it has succeeded are in places like Finland and other countries with 3-4 million people, 5 million. So that even look at the pedagogy, the teaching itself, the arrangement in class, you quickly realize that it cannot happen in a class of more than 20 students, 20 children. Where in this country we look at a public school with 20 children in a class? Secondly, if you look at the kind of things parents are complaining about, a kid just happened the evening at home, they tell you they want this. Shops are closed, you have just come in or something. You don't, even if it is at 4, you don't know where to get it. And you quickly see that it seems to be targeting only those who have certain abilities. For example, to be able to work with your child on homework, which is essential part of the teaching, it presupposes you have been to school. How many parents have been to school? And that you have certain resources to be able to buy the things the school need on a daily basis. So you can see this education will lock out an overwhelming majority of children from the mainstream education. That alone is destructive. When you work together with government policy on 100% transition, then you see the conflict.
Definitely.
Then you see the contradiction.
Yes.
100% transition means you lump 100 children in a classroom and you want to do CBC with them. Can it get more stupid than that? No, if it can get more stupid than that, I just want to hear. As a government, you are working on 100% transition so that parents who don't take children to Form 1 are being hunted by the administration. Chiefs and DOs are told, Magoha, tafuta huyo mzee, funga yeye. And you are not even telling us how that mzee will pay fees. So if you have 100% transition, which means you have 80, 70, 60 children in Form 1, how do you implement CBC? You can see how stupid it can get. Finally, I just want to tell you that you don't need to be an expert to know that this CBC is just rubbish. Yes, it can't work anywhere. Yeah.
No, well, no, okay. Of course, you've said that it's
can't work in this environment.
It cannot work in this country. But then back to the task force that was formed. Do you, based on the kind of report already, they're yet to publish their full report.
Those are just joyriders.
Do you think that they've served the purpose for which they were?
What purpose? If I appear before them, I'll tell them, please, just take allowances and go.
Let's get
because already the government had to address the issue of where do you domicile the so-called junior secondary?
And that is where
you domicile it.
That is where
so they were quickly told.
That is why I was questioning. In the first place, before the Uhuru government, the Uhuru Kenyatta government, those who perhaps came up with this entire, because actually this is a branch of the Uhuru Kenyatta government, the former president.
Yes.
Were they not aware that this kind of transition that we are supposed to be having, the CBC, or rather the grades 7, 8, and 9 should be domiciled in such a place? Or how did they just begin it without thinking? That's what I'm wondering. Because
that's why, please, you must be a good student. And you come from the University of Nairobi. So you must be a good student. This is something pushed down, that's what I said. It is pushed on you. And you're manipulated into accepting. Otherwise, you'll sit down and think and say, what do we need to address as Kenyans in matters of education first? It will be the question of quality of education. Do you have sufficient classrooms? Do we pay our teachers well? Do you have enough material for teaching? First, once you've taken care of that, then you begin to look at, is this education we are giving our children capable of leading this country to the 21st century and beyond? Yes or no? Let's adjust. The next stage will be, if we want to adjust, what do we begin with? You begin with the curriculum, that which you teach. Then you say, We need to teach this, we were not teaching it before. We need to remove this, we were teaching it, but it's not necessary for this reason. This thing we teach, we can combine it with this and this so that students have less subjects for the exam. That is the content, the curriculum. Then you ask yourself, this content now we have, can it be carried by 844 system? Can it fit in that arrangement of 8, 4, 4? Then the answer becomes no. You might need 6 years instead of 4. You might need to steal 1 year from primary school so that you have 7 at the primary, so that you create another extra. You know? But these things lump together in a hurry. So that even the expert, one day I was appearing with somebody, the expert, the lead expert from the ministry on TV. When he heard I was there, he ran away. I wanted to ask him, because I had him in one show, they were going around TV station, saying the last time we changed the curriculum was 202 or 3. So this is the man in charge of education in the country. He can't distinguish between the curriculum and the system. Look at the tragedy. So CBC is just a joke.
No. Okay.
But by the time we realize, so much damage will have been caused.
Now, Prof, why do you think that the KUPPET and NAT were in some sort of a conflict on where the junior secondary should be domiciled?
But let's begin by the fact that none of them were supporting CBC, especially NAT and Association. But they changed it because of politics. So now once we have arrested that, the conflict is the simplest thing to solve. Because the teachers who teach secondary school belong to KUPPET. The more membership, the better for KUPPET. The more money they get, the more union dues they get. So if junior secondary is domicile in primary school, which is another way of saying that the so-called secondary school will be taught by primary school teachers, KUPPET is suffering. Because then NAT has more teachers, union. But if you move those classes secondary school from primary, take them to secondary, the people teaching them will now be secondary school teachers and therefore members of KUPPET. And therefore KUPPET will be going to the bank with a smile up this side. So it's simple to see, which is cheap and foolish because we are playing with the future of the country. It shouldn't be about membership of a union. It shouldn't be about money. It should be about the future of this country, which we shall deliver through the children of this country.
Now, what do you think would be the effects of domiciling grade 7, 8, and 9 in primary schools now that they do not actually have even the facilities? I understand that the president instructed all those members of parliament to have laboratories constructed there and let those teachers be retrained. Don't you think it would have been easier?
The joke I'm talking about, first of all, it will not be secondary school.
And don't you think it would have been easier perhaps for grade 9 to be left in high school as we used to it, and then perhaps grade 7 and 8 stick with the primary?
It is just telling you that you're just segmenting things without thinking about them. Katahapa 6, Katahapa junior, Katahapa senior, without thinking. If you remain in primary school, these are just primary schools. They are not secondary school. Because there's culture. Even a secondary school is a culture. It's a psychological and cultural social transition. If you meet a class 8 child when they're in Form 1, they are different, even the outlook, even the thinking. When they used to jump on the field cheering, they can't jump. They are more contained. They know there's, you see, it's different. But if you domicile it in primary school, it's just a primary school. You are calling it, but just a primary school. The culture of the primary school will not disappear. It can't disappear. It's a primary school. The teachers are primary school teachers. They will teach. The way secondary school teachers teach is not the same way primary school teachers teach. Those things, pedagogical issues of culture, issues of maturity of children. And again, if you take the children to secondary school, to domicile class, the so-called grade 7, how do you take toddlers, young girls, to mix with women? That's disaster. A 10-year kid cannot be put in with 18-year children. Women, these are now basically women, talking women issues, going through women issues every month and stuff like that. These girls will be horrified. So you can see, you leave it in primary, there's no way it can be a secondary school. Even from a culture point of view, it's not a secondary school. In terms of the people who teach, how they teach, the culture of a primary school, they're different. You take them to secondary school, And you're taking children to live with men. A boy of 10 having to share a bed in the same room with a boy of 19. At the time, the bodies are different in terms of... So they didn't think about it.
Okay, I get you now. No, Prof. Finally, as we wind up this show, of course, this is a very broad topic that we'll have a lot of time to discuss. But as we wind up, what is your view about the government's proposal to abolish boarding schools in primary?
I'm a big proponent of the abolishment of boarding schools. Boarding schools, first of all, make education unnecessarily too expensive. Number one. Boarding schools create class. Different Kenyans of different classes. So those who go to Alliance and those who go to my Lombe Primary School, they are different Kenyans. Secondary school. So once you abolish boarding schools, what moves quickly is we move into community schools. So people will have an interest in ensuring that they develop the schools around them. Because it will not be enough for government to abolish primary boarding schools. The government must abolish and ban transportation of children by school buses in the morning. So that your child will go to the nearest school. And therefore you have an interest in that school. You see how equality and equity will prevail in the country after some time? The boarding school is also a breeding ground for very bad things in terms of character. Sort of the many bad things that have come. Because the children are lumped in one place, there are so many, you cannot take care of them the way they can be taken care of by their parents. But finally, a boarding school is a grim reminder of what white people thought we were. They thought we were such a savages, such a primitive children, people, that a child could not come from a home like that and go to school. Because we are engaging in pagan things, in primitive rituals, and we are just animals. So they have to remove a child from among the animals and take the child to a safe place in a boarding school. That is a bad reminder. And we must move away from that. In fact, people don't know that these boarding schools are a phenomenon that are just common in Kenya and a few other places. They are not a global thing. People stay with their children and take them to school. Again, for the parent, we very quickly abscond our responsibilities and think you have damned children in school. Including very, very, very weird things like somebody taking a child to class 3, boarding. I dropped somebody's child in class 3. After dropping them, after admission, I asked her, are you sure about what you are doing? So, that's my view.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep watch and wait what is in store for Kenyans and even the parents and even the pupils and the students of this country in matters of education, as the government comes in handy to try and make sure that Kenyans receive actually quality education. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a very lovely day.